So Trump pushes to lower prescription drug prices, while in the past he used to blast Democrats, no pun intended, as socialists for pushing the same policies. What does this mean? Well, hey, our friends at CNN are going to let us know. I know. I apologize for the headache.
Capitalism or socialism, it's getting harder to tell when it comes to Donald Trump's America because the president keeps making moves that have the government's hand firmly involved in a number of business dealings. The most recent is Trump just cut a deal with Pfizer to lower prescription drug prices. Pfizer will then sell the discounted medications directly to Americans on Trump's forthcoming website. You guessed it, Trump RX. Now, Democrats have for years tried to curb out of control drug costs.
Stop saying that he's a communist. Please, everyone. Really, stop calling Trump a communist. Stop doing that.
But with each legislative push, Republicans have screamed the S word.
Obamacare is a placeholder for Bernie Care. Bernie Care is socialism full born.
So far, prescription drug socialism is not working out too well.
Under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine.
At the end of the day, this is the only process left available to stop a march towards socialism.
Joining us at the table is CNN global economic analyst Rana Foroohar. Rana, this has been, I think, a topic of discussion because there's...
By the way, I also want to point out something. I just noticed this. Now, as it stands right now, looking at the view count, obviously I'm seeing the people live right now, but on my X account, at least here, we have our viewers. I do see you, so please, everyone, be sure to like and retweet, tweet. But for some reason, StreamYard is not showing that. Interesting. Another example of views disappearing.
So many ways in which Trump has been screaming socialism and communism, and yet he wants to manage this entire economy by himself.
Yeah.
Putting his hand in literally everything, offering tariffs and then discounts on the tariffs and then giving rebate checks to people and then taking shares in private companies and so on and so forth. How do you see this?
So I would say there's a lot of state capitalism going on here. And by that, I mean, it's kind of what China does. It's capitalism. There are markets and people are certainly making profits, but you have the state coming into sectors when it's considered to be of strategic interest. You have the state, in some cases, censuring individual CEOs, disappearing CEOs in the case of China. Here, not that. But I think that in some ways what both Donald Trump and certain candidates, I will say not candidates, but politicians on the left are doing is really responding to a populist sentiment. And I think that that's the connective tissue here. We are in a very populist moment. The rule books of both parties, I think, are being thrown out, and politicians are looking to do whatever resonates with the hot button topics in the population at the time.
I read last week that Trump was threatening to impose a huge tariff on foreign patented drugs, which many Americans depend on. And that it was supposed to go into effect October 1st. Did that happen?
So it's interesting. With the Trump RX plan, Pfizer, which would potentially be open to those tariffs, is supposedly getting an exemption in order to participate in this plan. So tariffs, and this is a great example of state capitalism, tariffs are being used as a tool, as a cudgel, as a sort of a carrot and a stick for companies as and when. And you never know when the rules are going to change. It could be.
So let's be clear on this. I want to just have this be talking about just a little bit. Okay, first of all, number one, when it comes down to prescription drug prices, you always know that the big manufacturers, major big pharma companies are going to have the final say of overall what the price will be. These large corporations have bought off many of our politicians. Now, it's very clear that if you compare the price of drugs here in the United States in comparison to Canada and Europe, oh my goodness, the prices are astronomically different. It's like night and day. It's far more cheaper and affordable. Well, that's because, again, other countries have different types of healthcare system than we do. And thus, in turn, why do you think many Americans, when they do get hooked on some of these prescription drugs, that there's also a drug epidemic? Why do you think there's an opioid epidemic? There's no real care. It's just to get people on pills so they're eternally sick.
One thing today, the next thing tomorrow, but this is about holding individual CEOs, individual companies, individual industries in some cases to heal.
Well, good luck to him. If he puts a 100% tariff on Ozempic, we're all going to get fat again.
And everybody is operating. Everybody's operating at the whim of Donald Trump. I mean, but it was not even just a little more than a year ago, when Kamala Harris was campaigning on combating price gouging at grocery prices. This is what Donald Trump said in response to that.
Comrade Kamala announced that she wants to institute socialist price controls. You saw that. Never worked before, never ever worked. This is communist, this is Marxist, this is fascist.
I mean, look, if you're a Democrat, you're probably saying, you know what? Yeah, he should be negotiating drug prices. They've been asking for that for many, many years. And every time Republicans called it socialism. So now it's not socialism because Trump's doing it?
Well, forget about if you're a Democrat. If you're someone who needs these drugs, right? I think you're happy to hear this, whether it's socialist, capitalist, these drug prices are out of control. A very close friend of the family called us the other day and said, the government just gives me, or my insurance gives me, he's diabetic, type 1 diabetic, the absolute perfect amount of insulin that I need. Can you help me get some more insulin? So if this is going to put this kid in a better position to get insulin for him at a lower price, I don't think anyone cares if it's socialist, capitalist. This is a very unique area. We're not talking about milk. We're not talking about grains.
Arthur, that literally the Democratic Party has been campaigning on this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been decades. I mean, honestly, decades. Medicaid and allowing Medicaid to negotiate drug prices, bringing down the price of insulin. In fact, they actually legislated some of that in 2022. And Mitch McConnell literally called it socialism.
So should we criticize someone who came around to a good idea? I don't think so. I think it's great. I wish the government, I wish more people in government were like, you know what? I campaigned on this, but now that I'm thinking about it, that's actually a good idea. That's not what
they're saying. They're just pretending like it never happened.
But let's also be clear about what Trump's doing. He's not setting a price control for a drug. He's using the stick.
Yes, he is.
He's using the stick, the tariff. He's using the stick, the tariff.
Here's why he's setting a price control.
He's not.
Because he is saying to Pfizer, you cannot sell drugs for more money in the United States than you do in Europe.
Now, we've all known this before. Trump has brought this up. In fact, a lot of people brought this up. A lot of politicians in the past and currently now. You know, yes, the prices are high. The prices are high, but what are you going to do about it? Like, will there be actually a change tomorrow? See, Big Pharma, like any other lobby group, has ensured that its property, the politicians, the U.S. senators and House representatives, ensure that those prices still remain up and up and up. You know, I can't help but feel like referencing the TV show Common Side Effects. I actually started rewatching it again. If you haven't seen it, it's on Adult Swim. Great show. Really good show. But it talks about the influence of Big Pharma, why we're eternally sick, why we are stuck in this system of absolute cannibalism in which people who need medicine to survive are stuck paying a bill. You know, when my elder relatives, like my grandpa and my Uncle Bernie, were still alive, I remember going to the pharmacy store to pick up their medicine. Well, thankfully, they were able to have like their insurance take care of them. But what I never told any of you is sometimes in those lines, I would see people beg and explain what happens to their insurance. Or even though the insurance covered some of it, they still couldn't get all of their pills and medicine for their loved ones. I dealt with that for a very long time when I was a caretaker for my grandpa, for my uncle. So, you know, to all these politicians for the past years, you know, you're talking this good game. Can you actually do it? Like, I understand the legal process, the legislative process, the wheels move slowly, but would it kill you to actually do the right thing? Would it be lifting up Mount Olympus to actually make people's lives better? Because you hear the media, they talk and talk and talk, and then, of course, now Trump's being called a communist and a socialist, which, no, he's not. Never will be, never has been. He's not going to be a communist dictator. He's not a socialist. But all in all, in regards to healthcare in this country, in regards to people affording their medicine, we're far behind. Sorry, I had to bring that close to home.
Now, again, Democrats have been saying that for a long time. Okay, but Trump is saying that Pfizer cannot sell essentially drugs for more than they sell it for in Europe. How is that not a price control?
Let me finish. Trump is using the stick, the tariff. And on the opposite end, the carrot is that the government is the biggest purchaser, the biggest consumer of pharmaceuticals through all of the various government health plans. She's shaking her head. Yes, because I'm right. Well, he's using his position as the largest consumer. That's different from, say, Zoran Mamdani, who
the whole point of what I'm trying to tell you is that Democrats literally, that was a campaign slogan in 2016 and in 2020, to allow the government as the largest purchaser of drugs to use their leverage in the marketplace to negotiate those prices. Now, sure, Trump is doing that, but Trump and his allies used to call that a year ago today socialism.
Yeah, no, it's
you pointed out, Kamala. I never got to finish my first point, so just let me finish. That is different from what Zoran Mamdani is saying about rent freezes, right? Mamdani is saying, I'm going to appoint a board in New York City to regulate the price of rent. That is socialism.
I didn't compare that to Mamdani. I don't think those are the same thing.
The truth of the matter is there's lots of different kinds of capitalism. There are actually lots of different kinds of socialism too. There's hard Soviet style socialism where you don't have
hard Soviet style socialism. You know what that means? If you're going to be dealing with hard Soviet style socialism, there's only one way to face off against that, and that is
I don't know anything about politics. I don't know anything about politics. I don't know anything about politics.
You were born a man and you will die a man. You were born a man and you will die a man. You were born a man and you will die a man.
That's right. All right, you got to keep your head on a swivel for hardcore Soviet Stalin socialism. You got to duck, dodge, dip, dive, and dodge again.
Private property, believe me, Donald Trump's not going to go for that. There's social democratic style governments that most of Europe has where there's a social safety net. Again, actually, it's ironic because we're having a budget shutdown in part because there's no compromise around pulling of benefits, healthcare benefits for poor people. You know, in Europe with democratic socialism, that's not something that they have to worry about. So I think the names and the definitions here are less important than the fact that guess what's going to cause a lot of inflation next year? Healthcare. And this is both parties, I think, are looking to this issue. We've just seen a big survey of major companies saying that they're expecting premiums to go up by 10%. Labor organizations are saying it's going to be more. This is populism. This is Donald Trump trying to get out ahead of that and hopefully say, look what I did, and then score some.
The timing of this Pfizer presser coming at the same time that we're in a shutdown because of ACA benefits being cut is not coincidental.
Something tells me that this prescription drug thing is not going to counteract people seeing premium increases that are 50%, 75% more than they were paying before. I mean, this is thousands of dollars that people are going to be shelling out on a monthly basis.
Yeah, it's not only thousands of dollars that they're going to be shelling out on healthcare, but overall costs are going up, and the economy is not in a great place right now either. And so when Donald Trump has promised to bring down costs, there hasn't been one thing that he has done in his 9 months of being in office that will actually do that. People haven't felt it yet. And so I find it interesting that he wouldn't jump to the opportunity to work with Democrats to try to bring down healthcare costs, because at least he can come next November, he can say, listen, guys, I did this, and take a victory lap.
I will say, though, when you listen to Leader Thune over in the Senate, it sounds like they're aware that they're going to have to deal with this at some point.
100%.
Right?
Because it's going to be a huge issue by next year. Oh, absolutely. And, one thing I will say, I do find kind of encouraging, although, again, it's something that they wouldn't cop to around, say, the semiconductor industry. When you create a demand signal, when you use the purchasing power of government to harness a demand signal, Biden tried to do it quite a lot. Other Democrats have tried. That's a good thing. It does bring down prices, and it would be wonderful if Republicans would embrace that idea.
Well, maybe they will now. We'll see.
We shall see. All right, but I don't want to put you guys through any more pain and suffering right now. That was a little bit too much. That was a little bit too much to sit through. But overall, table of pundits talking, prices of medicine still up, and that line at the pharmacy store. If you're able to pick up the medicine for yourself or your loved ones, you're blessed. But you're going to be hearing the pain from other people. Is there a breaking point? Again, to the activists and protesters, your leaders talk the big game about if we don't get it, shut it down. Because again, we could wait for these politicians and wait. But to a lot of you activists and organizers, are your leaders ever going to show strength. They ever going to do anything? Yep. Probably not. Because it's better to people to show up and protest than have them do anything at all, right? And Barnes Homestead, correction. Well, it is shut down. Now what? All right, everybody. Yeah, government is shut down. So show me. Show me.